Hello, everyone. Welcome to our community Bible study for the week of, what is this? Thursday, December the 5th. Instead of continuing, we were at really a closing point in the book of Exodus with Moses and the Israelites. And our next session will be, I'm going to wait and do that the first of the year. And we will do that in talking about when they approach the promised land and Joshua leads them into the promised land. So what we will do in between, I thought we would find interesting to look at some holiday music and their sources and the meaning. Now, first, we have a lot of Christmas carols. Some are religious, some are not. And I thought we'd start with some of the religious ones right now. And then next week we'll do some others. And the week after we'll probably look at some Hanukkah music as well as Christian carols because Hanukkah begins on the evening of December 25th. It's late this week, or this year. So we will get to that as well. But first, our first carol is Hark the Herald Angels Sing. It was written in 1739. The words, or it was at least, that's the first date we have for it being published or shared. The words are by Charles Wesley, and the music is from Felix Mendelssohn. Charles Wesley is the brother of John Wesley. The two of them were, John was an an Anglican Church of England priest in the 1700s, and he and his brother Charles began more of a grassroots movement that ended up being what we call the Wesleyan movement that started the Methodist churches in the United States and in England. And so Charles began writing lots of hymns, and he wrote over 6,000 hymns during his life. And the book I have here is Then Sings My Soul, which is a good reference for today's songs we're going to do. And he really didn't like people messing with his lyrics, but there was, his friend George Whitefield did some tinkering with some of the words that improved this one. He actually approved of that. So, Hark the Herald Angels Sing. Glory to the newborn King, peace on earth and mercy mild, God and sinners reconciled. Joyful all ye nations rise, join the triumph of the skies. With angelic hosts proclaim, Christ is born in Bethlehem. So the words are reflective of the day of birth when the angels were singing in the sky to the shepherds, and the angelic hosts, those angels singing, Christ is born in Bethlehem. And so why don't we listen to Hark the Herald Angels Sing.
Oh
Well, that was courtesy of the Wheaton College and Symphony off of YouTube. Our second carol is Angels from the Realms of Glory. It was written in 1816. There's a bit of a story behind this. John Montgomery was a Moravian pastor in Scotland, but he and his wife felt called to be missionaries on the island of Barbados. So they left their 6-year-old son James in Ireland with a community of people that had like mind for their religion. They sailed and went to Barbados, but died before they could get back or their son could join them. So this 4-year-old boy was left with nothing. He grew up, went to a school in England. He didn't do very well in the school, and he was apprenticed as a baker, and that didn't well. And he kept trying different kinds of jobs and apprenticeships. And finally, he settled down in Sheffield, England. And as in his early 20s, he began working for the newspaper and discovered he loved to write. So he wrote a lot for the paper, eventually purchased it and began publishing himself, the Sheffield Iris. This is James Montgomery. But he also liked to read and was devoted to his Christian faith as well. On Christmas Eve in 1816, he was 45 years old. He opened his Bible to the Luke chapter 2 and was reading again the story of the angels who were heralding the birth of Jesus. And he took his pen and started writing. And by the end of the day, Christmas Eve, a new poem was written and published in his newspaper and was first sung a couple years later in a church, Angels from the Realms of Glory. James Montgomery, as I just said, was the author of the words. The music that we sing it to come from Henry T. Smart. And we'll listen to the first couple of verses, because there are 5 verses in total. Angels from the Realms of Glory. That version was sung 4 years ago by the Sydney Children's Choir from Sydney, Australia. It's fun to pull up things off of the internet that are shared in common with others, and they come from all over the place. Angels from the Realms of Glory. And you may notice that the version they sang was a little different than the one that appeared on your screen. But that's true of a lot of hymns and carols, that there are different versions or people had added it. Well, one of the most famous Christmas carols is Silent Night. It was written in 1818 by Joseph Mohr, M-O-H-R, and the music was by Franz Gruber. You may know the story. It was Christmas Eve at a church in Austria. It was up in the Alps, and it was a newly constructed church of the St. Nicholas in a little village that was not far from Salzburg, Austria. Father Joseph Mohr prepared for the midnight service, and he was very upset because the organ was broken, and so it ruined the prospects for the music that he had planned for the evening. But he learned that sometimes problems turn out to be opportunities, and the Lord causes things to work for good. And so he decided he was going to write a new song, one that could be sung without the organ, something fairly simple. So he wrote the words, "Silent night, holy night, all is calm, all is bright," and continued with the verses. Well, he took the text to the organist, who was not going to play the organ because it was broken, Franz Gruber, and asked if Franz could compose just a simple tune. So that night, December the 24th, 1818, Silent Night was sung as a duet, was sung for the first time as a duet between two people accompanied by a guitar at the Church of St. Nicholas in Oberndorf. Well, that tune began to be spread by others who heard it and copied the text, and it was shared by many people. And but it was just, not really known widely until a group of people called the Strasser family, who were makers of gloves, but when they drum up business, when they were trying to sell their gloves at fairs and festivals, the four children would sing in front of the parents' booth in the commercial area. And it was kind of like the Von Trapp children later in Austria that are famous from the music, Sound of Music. They were known well because they traveled around. So when the children began singing this song, what we now call Silent Night, at their performances, it seemed perfect. And it came to the attention of the king and the queen of Austria, and they gave a royal performance. And that is when it was became spread wide, and today we know Silent Night. Well, that was a beautiful version by the Concordia College. It was their choir and symphony at a Christmas concert that they recorded 7 years ago. Let me read you a few verses from the Christmas story. In those days, a decree went out from Emperor Augustus that all the world should be registered. This was the first registration and was taken while Quirinius was governor of Syria. All went to their own towns to be registered. Joseph also went from the town of Nazareth in Galilee to Judea, to the city of David called Bethlehem, because he descended from the house and family of David. He went to be registered with Mary, to whom he was engaged and who was expecting a child. And while they were there, the time came for her to deliver her child, and she gave birth to her firstborn son, and wrapped him in bands of cloth and laid him in a manger, because there was no place for them in the inn. Luke 2, verses 1 through 7. Well, God bless you. We will listen to some more carols next week and learn a little bit more about some of our wonderful music and the people of faith who composed them and wrote the words for us. Have a great week, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.